All right, we got one more video where we are going to find the side of a triangle using basic trigonometry. So we want to find x. X is the hypotenuse of this triangle. I'm going to go ahead and label that this side is the hypotenuse. All right, but some of you may look at this and say, wait, they didn't give us any of the angles. Well, they did though. This is a right triangle, and then they're telling us that these two angles are the same. So if you wanted to figure out what these two angles are, you could start by saying an entire triangle is 180 degrees. So you've got 180 degrees. And then we're going to take away 90 because that's how much this corner is, this right angle. So we have 90 degrees left over. That 90 degrees that's left over has to be split evenly between these two angles. So to split it evenly, you divide by 2, and 90 divided by 2 is 45 degrees. So now we know that this angle is 45 and this angle is 45. So now we actually know all of the angles of the triangle. Now some of you may be looking at this and saying, oh, I know, this is an isosceles triangle. Well, if it's an isosceles triangle, then these two sides have to be the same. And that's correct. This is the square root of 7. Then this is also the square root of 7. And now you might just use Pythagorean theorem. You could do a squared plus b squared equals c squared to solve for h. But we are going to use trig because that's what this video is supposed to be about. So I'm going to pick one of these angles. I'm going to pick this one. And I'm going to label the triangle from that angle. So if this side is the hypotenuse, we've already labeled that. This side is the opposite, excuse me, from the angle that we're trying to figure out. And this side is the adjacent, the attached side to the angle we're trying to figure, or to the side we're trying to figure out. All right, so we have the adjacent side and we have the hypotenuse. Which of our trig ratios uses a and h? And that should be cosine. So we should say that the cosine of our angle, which is 45 degrees, is equal to, and cosine is a over h. So that's going to be the square root of 7 over, and h is x. So if you watched the last video, you watched me set this up as a proportion, and then I cross-multiplied and solved. Another way to think about these, if x is in the denominator, you can think about switch and divide. The x and the cosine of 45 basically just change places. So the x comes up here, and the cosine of 45 goes down here. And if you like that way better, you can use that too. All right, so in your calculator, you just need to type the square root of 7 divided by the cosine of 45. All right, so the square root of 7 and then divided by the cosine of 45. You have to be really careful that you're not underneath the square root symbol when you type divided by cosine of 45. And if you do that correctly, you should get that x is equal to, and I get about 3.74, and that is the correct answer.